Hello! Welcome to another episode about what Lynn does with our goat's milk. Today I'm going to show you how I make yogurt. Now there are many ways to make yogurt and not all of them are going to require all of the equipment that I use. But I'm going to show you what I use and have used for years. First of all, we bought a Yo Gourmet yogurt maker. It's a multifunction yogurt maker. It's a really neat thing. It holds temperature for a long time. It has to hold it for 4.5 hours. It has an inside container. This is where the yogurt will go in order to do the magic for 4.5 hours. And you surround it with water on the outside, and then it plugs in and it just holds the temperature because it's really insulated, okay? Along with this container, that little machine, came a recipe book, and this is the recipe book that I use when I make yogurt. So basically it's a really simple recipe that I've modified over the years to make happen the way I want it to work, the way we like yogurt to be. I also buy Yo Gourmet culture. It's a live active culture for yogurt. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. You just have to have room temperature storage. It stores for quite a long time. In order to make this recipe, which requires 1/2 gallon of milk, you need 2 of these little packages, just this little thing. Instead of cutting apart and use half, you'll use both of them, because I make 1/2 gallon at a time, which is the most that the maker will hold. You can half the recipe and only make a quart at a time if you choose. So 1/2 gallon of milk already in the pan. I'll tell you when we add this. I flavor our yogurt with no sugar added cherry pie filling. This is no sugar added because Selena is diabetic, as most of you know by now, so we don't add sugar to much of anything. And this is pretty easy to find and fairly inexpensive. I have also used sugar-free Jell-O, and of course you could use regular Jell-O if you don't have to be sugar-free. That is perfectly fantastic. One thing that I've learned over time is that to get the consistency that we want, we really need to add gelatin in some form. Since I'm not using Jell-O, I'm using the pie filling, I add gelatin at the beginning. And this is suggested for a firmer yogurt in the recipe. I use this beef gelatin because it is gluten-free. It doesn't have any pork parts, anything like that in it. It is pure beef gelatin. And this is what I use. So I'm going to start the recipe. First, you have to, if you watch the mozzarella episode, you recognize the equipment. First, you have to get some milk out. So I'll dip some milk into my bowl, and I use probably the equivalent. If you were using those little Knox gelatin packages, which you can use if you want, it would probably be 2 of them. I use a full scoop and then about 1/2 scoop. So that would be approximately 2 of those Knox gelatin packages if that's what you would rather use. Just stir it till it dissolves. And then, of course, we're going to add it to the milk in the pan. You have to be kind of careful with the gelatin. If you don't stir it right away, if you don't take care of it right away, it tries to set up on you, and that's a problem. You don't want lumps in your yogurt. So dissolve it really well. And then I use the same trick that I used when I was doing mozzarella. I start stirring the milk so it goes in a little lumpier than I like. I was talking, so I didn't stir as quickly as I needed to. What a concept. Okay, I'm going to use the same thermometer that I used for mozzarella. But of course, this is a different recipe, so different temperature requirements. You have to heat the milk to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is approximately 82 degrees centigrade. Of course, I have it in the double boiler set up, the same thing I showed you last time. I'm not going to make you watch this. When it gets up there, I'll tell you what I do next. See you in a minute. Okay, we're back. It is almost up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 degrees centigrade. You'll notice that I'm stirring kind of vigorously. There's two reasons for that. First is that
part of her exercise program.
Yeah, right. First is that with the gelatin in there, it tends to want to stick, so you have to stir it fairly often. And the second reason is that you don't get an accurate temperature unless you stir it, okay? And I need an accurate temperature. You need to get it up to the right temperature, which it almost is. Okay, now 180 degrees, 82 degrees centigrade. So now it says, the recipe says to take it off the heat and let it cool. Seems kind of silly. Problem is that if you add the live culture to it at this temperature, you're going to kill the culture. So it has to cool to between 42 and 44 degrees centigrade, which is 108 to 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you can speed this process up if you want to, and I have done so in the past if you want to, by sticking it in a icy bath of water in your sink and allowing it to cool. I'm not in that much of a hurry, and frankly I think the consistency is better when it cools on its own slowly. I like to leave the metal whisk in there. That helps it wick some of the heat out. And it's standing here, I'm standing here right underneath the air conditioner, which is going to help it. I'll come back every once in a while and stir it. This is one of the easier steps in this process. The hardest thing about this is remembering what you're doing and getting back to it before it gets too cool. I have done that. If you do that, do not panic. All you have to do is put it back in the hot water bath and bring the temperature back up to between 42 and 44 degrees centigrade, which is 108 to 112 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to let this cool. It can take up to 30 minutes for this to happen. So I'm going to let it cool and I'll get back with you in just a minute. Okay, we have reached the optimal temperature, which is actually a little bit above 42 degrees centigrade. The reason for that is that I have to mix this yogurt culture into the milk. And when I mix it, it's going to drop the temperature. So I don't want it to get it too cold. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, we put about a cup of the milk into our faithful little bowl. And we put the culture in and stir it. As with anything dealing with milk, you have to make sure that you mix it thoroughly before you add it in. So stir, 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 stir. And then again, that little trick I showed you, starting, it's swirling, and pouring it in so it gets a good mix. Okay, now I'm going to move you. It's going to be a little dizzying. No, I think I'll turn you off and move you. Okay, we're at the sink now. I do this in the sink because I have a propensity for creating messes, and I'd rather the mess were in the sink. So you just simply pour the milk with the culture in it into the inner batch container. I need the water I'm gonna put around that batch container, I need it to be hot. Make sure the lid is well seated, as you can see. Put it inside the inner batch container. Now, if I can get it untangled, I'm going to plug it in. We actually have a plug right back here. I'm going to plug it in. And you'll see that a light comes on. All that light means is that it is plugged in and holding its heat. It does not generate any extra heat. Okay, it's starting to get warm. I'm going to use all that water I'm running to wash these dishes. Don't want to waste anything. And because I like the water to be nice and hot, I usually heat up the container I'm going to pour it in with. I don't know if you can see this. I've got a glass 2-cup measure that I am heating up right now. Okay, I'm filling it with water. And now I pour this into this batch container. There are lines inside you can do it too, but I find it easier to pour it in after I've got the inner container in there. Then I can see exactly how full it is. The water should come up to at least the level of the milk inside the inner batch container. Sometimes a little higher, I like it. Put the lid on and just set it somewhere out of the way. It's going to be sitting here with its little light on out of the way for 4½ hours. That's correct, 4½ hours. Now, the truth is, some of you are saying, I can't afford all this fancy equipment. Well, I showed you what I do for a double boiler, right? Because I didn't buy one. But I did go out and get a yogurt maker. I now realize that was probably not necessary. I'm happy I did it because it's convenient, and at the time I had the money to spend. But if you want to make yogurt and can't afford this, if you can get the culture, that makes it easier, but you don't have to do that. You can actually use plain yogurt. If you can get the live culture yogurt from your store, you can use plain yogurt for your culture. You simply add it to the milk that you're making your yogurt with. So look online and get yourself a recipe. Get a container of plain yogurt. If you want to make it a little firmer, get some Knox gelatin or wherever you want to get gelatin. Or if you choose not to do that and you just want to use Jell-O for your flavoring, that works. Whatever you want to do, okay? And then how do you keep it warm? Well, you remember how I kept my mozzarella milk warm in a great big pan. I set the pan down inside of it with towels all around it and kept it warm. It would stay just as warm for 4½ hours in that concoction as it does right here in this container. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to start making your own yogurt today. What kind of milk makes yogurt? Any milk. Any milk. The fresher the better. But if you buy milk at the grocery store, you can still make yogurt with it. All right, I'll be back in 4½ hours and show you what we do to finish the yogurt. Okay guys, it's been 4½ hours. I know, it just seems like it's been seconds, right? But it's actually been 4½ hours. So I'm gonna show you what I do next with the yogurt. First of all, I opened 2 cans of the no sugar added cherry pie filling. And I put 1½ cans in here. I put the other ½ can in a container that I keep in the refrigerator because I make pudding for Selena every 4 days, sugar-free pudding, and I usually add 3 or 4 cherries and some of the pretty cherry juice stuff into the puddings. She loves it in the cream cheese pudding and the lemon pudding and even the chocolate pudding. Not so much in the pistachio, but that's okay. Anyway, so that's what we use these for, and they're really quite good. They taste very sweet. There's no sugar-free type of taste to them. I also add 2 packages of Sweet Additions, which is a 0-calorie sucralose sweetener. It comes in packets. You can also get it in bulk, and I'm going to try to get that next time. I could not find it at our store last time, so I'm going to try to get it in bulk because it's always cheaper in bulk. I just add 2 packets because it adds a little bit more oomph. There is no aspartame in this, which I'm very allergic to aspartame. I don't think anything like that is good for you, so we don't use it. And it is gluten-free as well. So I add it to that and I stir it in first, just because I'm kind of anal that way. I don't think it's even really necessary. Okay, I'll set that aside for a moment. I'm going to show you the yogurt. So I'll unplug it and take the inner batch container out. It is, of course, in water, and it's still warm, nicely warm. And again, I'm going to do this in the sink because, as I told you before, I have a propensity for making messes, and I really don't want to make a mess here. I want you to see what this looks like because it's not what you expect. It doesn't really look like yogurt right now, okay? Take the lid off. See, it's all bubbly and it's really runny, kind of funky looking, okay? You have not done anything wrong. It's really liquidy and everything else, okay? Haven't done a thing wrong. This is what it's like in this particular state at this point. And it's also not sweet at all because it's got that culture. It almost has a almost a sour cream flavor to it. It's just really runny. So how do we fix that? Well, we add stuff to it to change that. This has got all the wonderful culture that is so good for you in it, but we want it to taste good, or people don't do things when they don't taste good, right? Again, I'm going to do this in a sink. I'm changing up how I do things because I'm doing it for you, but I really need to do this in the sink because I will make messes otherwise. So you have to pour it, but it makes splashes, and I just made a mess as I proving my point. Didn't lose most of it, thank goodness. Okay. Okie dokie. All right, and then you stir it all up and make the magic. I spend a lot of time cleaning up my messes. Alrighty. Now, it doesn't look like much right now, but as you stir it, it starts looking yummier and yummier and yummier. So when does it get that yogurt consistency? Well, would you make pudding, which I just mentioned, when you first make pudding, it doesn't look or feel anything like pudding. It might taste like it, and right now, if you tasted this, except for the fact that...
I know a girl like that.
Except for the fact that it's warm, it would taste like yogurt. But, I know that girl was warm too, right? But, the consistency will come when it gets chilled. So I'm going to pour this into the containers I normally pour it into, and when it is nice and cold, I'll show you the consistency and enjoy some right in front of you so that you can be very envious. Okay? See you in a bit. Okay, it's the next morning, and I see that both Selena and Juanita have beaten me to the yogurt. I just wanted to show you the consistency. See? It's a lovely, beautiful, soft, yummy yogurt. Very creamy and delicious to eat. You too can make your own yogurt. It really is very easy to do. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day.